After much discussion and prayer with my family, I've decided to decommit from the University of South Carolina back in August. I made the decision to commit to the university program and staff. A lot has changed since that time, and I feel that I should reevaluate my situation. I want to thank Connor Shaw for all the love, support, and understanding. Please, no interviews at this time. Much respect. Gunnar Stockton, a potential five-star quarterback from the northeast Georgia mountains in Rabun County. Really not shocking that this happened, but we are going to talk about it because it could directly affect Georgia for sure. Dean Legge from Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan. And whenever you go watch Gunnar play, you can see right away that the guys he plays against are not on his level. Not just that they're high school kids, and he's certainly a higher level quarterback than that, but also just they're not a typical high school bunch either. So Gunnar Stockton flashes a lot. That Mike Bobo, who had been recruiting him to South Carolina and is no longer there as the offensive coordinator, left and went to Auburn is not surprising, and this is the natural progression of that. I mean, this is not surprising that Gunnar would make this decision. The question now becomes, where will he go? And, when his final two, if I'm not mistaken, were Georgia and Carolina, it makes you immediately wonder, is it going to be Georgia? I think we've got a long way to go before we can make that sort of determination. And there's a lot in the way before that happens. First of all, you just think in terms of logistics, he is just as close to Clemson as he is anywhere. Now, I don't know how much Clemson's recruited him, but he's perfect for their system. A quarterback with athleticism and the ability to throw the ball very well. I mean, that's certainly what Clemson's been doing. When you look at Georgia, Brock Vandagriff is a flashing red light for a lot of guys around the country. I don't know if that will be the case with Gunnar because those two know one another, they're familiar with one another, and they're not the same class. So it really becomes a very interesting thing now because once you start talking about trying to stack quarterbacks in a row, that's what you have to do in today's college football because inevitably guys are going to transfer. National championship game was odd this year because it didn't feature two guys who transferred. It just featured one. We've seen more often than not guys leaving. I say two guys. Well, it was about normal, frankly, because a lot of guys, though, at the end of the day, you have one starter who's been there the whole time, the other guy hadn't. Transferred in, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields. That's been common these days. So if you're Georgia or Carolina or Clemson or Auburn, whoever, you want to get as many really good players as you can. You want to get as many really good quarterbacks as you can because the truth is you don't know what the future will be. Do you remember when everybody was anointing Jacob Eason as the number one overall draft pick in the NFL draft? That's not saying that to put Jacob down. I'm saying that things you can't know what you don't know. You don't know what the future will be. For Gunnar, the relationship that guys develop with Georgia's staff can be pretty significant pretty fast. Speaking of Justin, he was a guy who had been committed to Penn State, backed off, went through a summer of really being heavily recruited, and then committed to Georgia. That could totally happen here. What is going to be something we're going to need to see is how tight is Gunnar going to stick with his connection with the Shaw family, because that's not insignificant here. That is a big deal, a big part of this. I mean, his head coach is a Shaw. So you've got, a line of really good quarterbacks that have, gone on to have success in college, and now one of them is his head coach. And that was a lot of the draw to Carolina. But, with Will leaving and Mike leaving, I can't imagine that Connor knows Shane Beamer in any significant way, because Shane has been at Oklahoma, who had Brock Vandagriff committed to them. I mean, it's very incestuous, the quarterback recruiting. But I don't know how good Gunner will be in college, the same way I don't know how good Brock or anybody will be, because it is hard to project, and I've learned not to trust myself so much on quarterbacks because they're impossible. I mean, it is impossible to know. But he gives you the capability to make plays in the open field in a way that other guys kind of don't. He is very comfortable in the pocket, dancing around, buying time. It looks like he's playing in slow motion. It looks like everybody else is he is so much more dynamic than everyone else that he's playing. Gunner. He also has a lot of attitude. A lot of people don't like that, but a lot of people do. But he definitely has it, and he's got a lot to say out there on the field too. When I watched him live, I would be concerned about the height, I guess. But anymore, if you can make plays, you can make plays. And he makes a lot of plays. I mean, he makes a lot of plays. I don't know if the style translates to the SEC as well as you would like. I mean, you're not going to be able to just run around back there in the league. It doesn't. That usually doesn't go very well. So that will have to be an aspect of his game, not the primary part of his game. But there's no question, he anticipates throws very well. That's what makes him such a gifted passer. He is very developed, particularly for a guy from rural Georgia, northeast rural Georgia. Rural Georgia and South Georgia, a lot of times those guys are raw, but they're not as raw as the guys in northeast Georgia. I'm just telling you. So he's got plenty of development that he's had because he's been surrounded by really good coaches. That Shaw family knows what they're doing. They are, when you think about Connor at South Carolina, he is the greatest quarterback in the history of South Carolina's football. You want to laugh about that? That's fine. But they were really good when he was there, South Carolina. I mean, they finished the season, I think, number 4 in the country in 2013. That was a really good program while he was there. They need Gunner to be that good again. The question is, where do we go from here? And it's just hard to know because there's no way that Brock Vandagriff going to Georgia doesn't affect Gunner Stockton. Good or bad. I don't know which it is. It may be that he feels like, hey, I can go there and compete. I beat him as a junior when he was a senior with the Prince Avenue team and my Raven team. I can beat him as when I go play. I personally think Brock projects better into the SEC than Gunner. But again, I have learned to not trust myself. And I think what you try to do as a recruiter is gather as many pieces to the puzzle as possible. And sometimes getting multiple pieces that you're trying to fit into the same hole, that's not a bad idea either. Gunner Stockton is a special player. He is. And what his future will be, I couldn't say. But it's something we're going to monitor for sure. Make sure you're checking out the playlist that's above me. We update it all the time. Dean Legge from Dog Post signing off. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.